The international break is here, and for Middlesbrough fans, that means it's the first real opportunity to take stock of how the season's gone so far. Middlesbrough have played 6 matches in all competitions at this point, 4 of those in the Championship and 2 of those in the Carabao Cup. Now, as far as results are concerned, it's really hard to sort of argue with the progress that's been made. Last season was an absolute disaster. During the first couple of months of the season. By the time we played that match against Sheffield Wednesday, which is burnt into the brains of every Middlesbrough fan, Middlesbrough had only picked up a couple of points at that point so far in the season. But this term, Middlesbrough are looking much stronger. Much more like the promotion chasers that we're all kind of hoping that they're going to turn out to be. Now, it's been a busy summer in terms of players coming into the club. 8 new signings for Michael Carrick's team, and obviously that does bring an element of an element of uncertainty, in terms of how those players are going to settle into life at the Riverside. But with people like Luke Ayling being one of the signings, he obviously joined in January earlier this year. He knew exactly what it would take to thrive under Michael Carrick, and he's really kicking on. And other key players, people like Aidan Morris, who looked like he's been playing for Middlesbrough for a number of years, all coming in, looking really strong. It's been sort of a really successful season in terms of transfers at the moment. Every player who's come into the club has looked like they've sort of settled into life at Middlesbrough relatively well. We're seeing early glimpses of what a lot of these players have got to offer, and hopefully even the players who haven't heard too much in terms of match action or game time, the hope really is that those players will kick on as the season unfolds. And I think that continuity in the playing squad has been really kind of helpful. Last summer, it was a very different matter. Loads of new signings coming into the club last summer. People like Emmanuel Latilath and Lucas Engel, and even people like Seny Dieng. There was a lot of turnover in that playing squad, particularly after losing so many of those key players who'd been on loan the previous year with Cameron Archer and Ryan Giles, and obviously Chuba Akpom left last summer as well. So it was a really kind of disjointed feel to the Middlesbrough group going into the start of last season. But this term, it feels very much like the foundations are in place, and Middlesbrough are looking to bring in those players to build on top of that. So 8 new players have come into the club, 6 of those on a permanent basis, 2 of them on loan. Those 2 players have come in with the view of just adding competition and depth to Michael Carrick's team. Obviously, with George Edmondson coming in from Ipswich on loan, that's been due to the number of injuries that we've picked up in the defensive area over the last couple of weeks. And so the feeling really is that Middlesbrough are in a really good place to kick on into the season ahead, and obviously the target will be to challenge promotion. In terms of results so far this season, things have been pretty good as far as the league form is concerned. Obviously, we started the season with a 1-0 victory over Swansea City. That was a good start to the campaign. We then played in the Carabao Cup against Leeds United and had that thrilling 3-0 victory at Elland Road, which was a brilliant match, one which I was at. I was with my father-in-law in the Leeds end of that game, and it was quite an enjoyable evening. I've got to say, and one which really kind of set Middlesbrough fans up with confidence for what the season might have in store. But in typical Boro fashion, it was crashing back down to earth that weekend when we travelled to take on Derby. Derby, obviously, only just promoted from League One last season. The hope was that we'd go there and it would be a relatively comfortable victory, one of the more comfortable victories that we'd possibly have this season. But typical Boro style, lost 1-0 there. So that was a grounding sort of experience. The following week, it was 2-2 against Portsmouth. On home soil. Middlesbrough had a lot of chances. This is something that I will get on to shortly. We had a lot of chances, and in that game we were sort of punished by a kind of really ruthless Portsmouth side who really just capitalised on their opportunities. But we came away with a point, and it wasn't a bad point in the end of things. Obviously, Middlesbrough have also had their disappointment in the Carabao Cup with the 5-0 thrashing against Stoke City. But we did finish off this first chapter, this first cluster of fixtures, with a 2-0 victory over Cardiff City in Cardiff, which is a brilliant result because it's always a tricky place to go to when you head to South Wales. So that was a result which kind of meant that this first cluster of fixtures has sort of ended on a high. There's optimism among supporters. For Middlesbrough, it means that they're currently in 7th place in the Championship, level on points with 6th place Burnley. in the table. 7 points from 4 games so far. A decent tally, you've got to say. It's I think if you'd asked many supporters at the start of the campaign how many points they'd want from the first 4 games, you'd probably say that realistically fans would be looking for around this sort of mark. I personally am of the opinion that if Middlesbrough are going to be challenging for promotion, we need to be sort of averaging around about 2 points a game if we are going to go up. So obviously with 4 games played, that for me would have meant that we'd be on around about 8 points at this point. Clearly not far away from that at all. We're only 1 point off the pace there. If that game against Derby had been a draw, for example, we would have been firmly on track for what I'm suggesting. So I don't think it's any real drama that we're not there at the moment. Possibly a point behind where we would want to be, I guess, at this point in the season. But I think for Middlesbrough, it's really kind of a time for kicking on. The first few weeks of the season have brought fixtures against. What you could argue have been it's been a gentle sort of start to the season for Middlesbrough. We are going to face more difficult fixtures as the season unfolds, but hopefully with Middlesbrough they will be able to kick on and settle into things as the season gets underway. As I mentioned, there have been 8 new signings so far this summer. A couple of them have bedded in and proven themselves as key first team players already. A lot of the players arrive late in the transfer window and will just be kind of getting up to speed with what it takes to succeed under Michael Carrick. And you got Neto Borges, who played against Cardiff, came in, looked very, very promising. In my opinion, I think he'll be an upgrade on Lucas Engel. He's someone who'll play at left back, but will play as a slightly more attack-minded left back, which is something that Middlesbrough need. That was something that Middlesbrough did really well when we had Ryan Giles in the team. I know a lot of people do hark back to this famous time when we had Ryan Giles at left back, but he was a really, really key part of what Middlesbrough were doing that season. A lot of what Middlesbrough's attacking play looks like is based around kind of floating into those little pockets of space around the striker. We've got Finn Azaz, who will be playing as a number 10 primarily this season. We've got Riley McGree, who, when fully fit, he'll be playing off the left. But as we all know, Riley McGree is not a natural winger. He's not someone who's going to be providing too much in terms of width. He'll be drifting in field and dropping into those pockets around Finn Azaz, around Emmanuel Latiolaf in attack as well. And that will mean that there will be a need for width on that left-hand side. And that's something that we've kind of been missing a little bit with Lucas Engel in the team. I like Lucas Engel, but it does look like he's been struggling for confidence in the first few weeks of the season. And also the fact that he's not naturally an attack-minded left-back has been a little bit of a problem. As far as Michael Carrick's team are concerned, that left-back role is a really kind of pivotal position in Michael Carrick's system, because as I mentioned, it is needed to provide that width in attack. You need someone who's kind of hugging the touchline, getting chalk on their boots, as some of the old-fashioned football journalists would say. And I think Borges is someone who will do exactly that. He's someone whose primary instinct is to get forward, to provide width, to get balls into the box. And that's something that he'll offer. And the fact that he was deemed ready and suitable and good enough to start against Cardiff was a really positive thing. He seems like a really down-to-earth player, someone who's really driven, someone who'll probably be a bit of a leader in this Middlesbrough dressing room. And so probably from his point of view, the international break will probably come as a really good time for him, because it'll give him a bit of chance to get settled on Teesside, get moved over, get used to life at the Riverside under Michael Carrick. A couple of weeks of working with the team on the tactical system, and getting to know his teammates. So that'll be really important for him, and something that will be really good for him, but also for a number of other players as well over this international break. People like Mika Hamilton, who've come from Man City with a glowing reputation, someone who's a real talent, and someone who's going to go on to be an absolute star if he can fulfill his potential. We've seen little glimpses of what he's got to offer in the first few weeks of the season, but he's again is someone who will be wanting to settle down, someone who will really kind of relish this time to work on the training ground with Michael Carrick and the coaching team, get a much better idea of what they're going to be looking for from him, and then hopefully be challenging for a place in the starting lineup. Obviously, I mentioned before about George Edmondson arriving from Ipswich on loan. It'll be a good opportunity for him to get settled in. We've got Ben Doak from Liverpool. Never exactly know how to say that. I'm going to go with Doak, but yeah, he's someone who's a very, very exciting player, and someone who is bound to get fans off their seats at the Riverside. But again, a very raw talent and someone who will need a little bit of nurturing on the training ground, and that's why this is a really, really important time for Middlesbrough. The first few weeks of the season have gone pretty well. As I said, I think 7 points from the first 4 games is decent. It's not perfect. I personally would have been wanting more, and I think this season we do have to be demanding of the team. If Middlesbrough are going to be challenging for promotion, we need to be in that mix from the very start. I think in previous seasons we've kind of, obviously not on purpose, but we've kind of fallen into the gap of falling off the pace slightly of the top 6. Looking ahead to it with almost like with the eyes being, we're only 3 points off the playoffs, or 4 points, or 5 points off the playoffs, or if we can just win this game, or if we can just get a couple of good results here, we'll be right back in that mix. I think we need to avoid that this season. I think we need to make sure that we're right in there, and that's why it's important to be picking up these points right from the very start of the season. As I said, I think the fact that, from my point of view, we've maybe picked up 1 less point than what we would want to, on the basis of picking up an average of 2 points a game. I don't think it's any real drama, because I think the performances have been there, and I think that's been a really important part of the positivity that's coming out of Middlesbrough at the moment. The results have been good, but not great, but I think the performances have been very, very encouraging on the whole. We have been a little bit sloppy in front of goal. There's been a couple of moments where fans have been left with their head in their hands, one of which was obviously against Stoke City in the Carabao Cup. But on the whole, Middlesbrough have done exactly what Michael Carrick had been wanting from them, and that little bit of cutting edge in front of goal has been the key difference, really. It's something which cost Middlesbrough the victory against Portsmouth. So that would have been an extra 2 points on the tally. Obviously, against Derby, it was a hugely frustrating game. Middlesbrough had so many chances to not only draw the game, but win the game as well. And so you've got to think that over the course of the full season, you've got to think that a lot of these games would be turning into victories if we can just have that little bit of cutting edge. That'll come with time. That'll come with form for Emmanuel Atielath, but it'll also come with fluency for the players around. People like Aidan Morris are still slotting into the team. You've got Finn Azaz and Riley McGree, who are really just kind of like hoping to kick on and enjoy a really good season. I mentioned before about Neto Borges, who will be coming in at left back. He will hopefully add an extra dimension to the attacking unit as well. So I think there's a lot of things which are yet to fully click into place. But the fact that we've been performing largely so well in these first few games of the season is really encouraging, and for me is a telltale sign that we're on the right track. I think coming up over the next few weeks, we've got some really difficult fixtures. I think for Middlesbrough, it'll be really important to just get these points on the board, keep going. We don't want to be falling into the trap of having any losing runs or be dropping points unnecessarily. I think, as I said, that the target should be to be picking up an average of 2 points every game. So for me, that will be a great sort of benchmark for where we need to be as the season unfolds. I think in terms of the Championship as a whole, it's going to be a really quite open division this season, really. I think the fact that Middlesbrough's results haven't been perfect, but we're still up and around there is an encouraging sign. I think we've seen that the clubs who were tipped to be promotion contenders, they've endured a bit of a slow start as well. Leeds are up there, but they haven't looked anywhere near as good as what people would hope for. And obviously, Middlesbrough fans saw it themselves in that Carabao Cup game. They do have a leaky defence. They are able to be beaten. Portsmouth really caused them a lot of problems on the opening day of the season. So they're a side who are going to be a bit of a work in progress over this season. The teams who got relegated, Sheffield United, there's been a whole load of new players coming in there. They're still adapting to life back in the Championship, and so they've struggled a little bit. Luton, they're right down near the bottom at the moment. I think they're second bottom in the table as of right now. They're a side who I tipped to be challenging for promotion, and at the moment they're kind of really struggling. So it'll be interesting to see how the season plays out for them. I think it's going to be, it's very early days in the Championship, as we all know, and as all the cliches kind of say about the Championship, it can it can change very, very quickly. One 3-game week, I should say. And you kind of see how the table can transform a team that's near the bottom, win all 3 games in the week and go flying up the table. Likewise, a team who's near the top can plummet based on a couple of bad results, and particularly at this early stage of the campaign. I think for a side like Luton, all it would take is a win or two, and they would be right up there in the top 8 once again. So I don't think the Championship table takes on too much meaning at this early stage of the season. But yeah, the fact that Luton are struggling and Sheffield United are struggling is a big sign that the table could be as open as possible. There have been a few surprise packages in the Championship as well. Watford are right up there at the moment. They were tipped to struggle by a lot of people at the start of the season. I think a lot of people thought that Tom Cleverley was out of his depth at Vicarage Road, but they've done really well. I think it's 3 wins from 4 from them at this stage in the Championship season. I think they're up in 3rd in the table as of right now, and I don't really expect them to be able to last the pace. I can't see them challenging for promotion this season because their squad is a little bit light, in my opinion. But again, they've been doing very, very well in the first few weeks of the season. Sunderland have been absolutely outstanding. There was a lot of question marks over them coming into the campaign with Reggie Libri coming in as the new boss. A lot of people had never heard of him. What was he going to be like? Was he going to be able to get the best out of their players? Fans were very frustrated at the end of last season. They've also obviously lost Jack Clark, who went to Ipswich before the end of the summer transfer window as well, which is a massive loss because he is just a brilliant player and one of the best in the Championship. So, but again, Sunderland have done extremely well. They've got a very young team. People like Chris Rigg is really going to be an absolute talent, someone to really keep an eye on this season and beyond. Joe Bellingham has been outstanding as well. They seem to have solved the striker issue there as well, with Mayenda scoring a good few goals early on in the campaign. So Sunderland are looking like a really good team and one to watch this season as well. So I think it's going to be a very, very open Championship. And so for Middlesbrough, the real pressure is just to kind of keep picking up these results, keep averaging that 2 points a game if possible, just to make sure that they're up there, that they're up in the top 6 and hopefully comfortably in the top 6. The target this season has to be finishing in the playoffs at the very least. We don't want to be in that mix of being 7th, 8th, 9th and chasing the playoffs. Ideally, we want to be at a point in the season where we're kind of comfortably in there, even if we can sort of consolidate 4th or 5th place in the table and kick on from there to hopefully mount a bit of an outside push for automatic promotion. That would be ideal, but we don't want to be flirting with the idea of squeezing into 6th place once again because it's so competitive. I think it's really just very important that Middlesbrough keep picking up their results, keep doing it on a consistent basis so that we're not having to play catch up again at the back end of the season. So it's going to be a really interesting few months for Middlesbrough as we go into the autumn. Obviously, the fixtures will start to really kind of pile up during that time. For Middlesbrough, now that they're out of the Carabao Cup, it's a firm focus on the Championship and the league, which is great. It means that we can focus all of our efforts on that. There will be midweek games, but we do have a squad which I believe is capable of handling that fixture list. We did have a lot of injuries last season, but I think for Middlesbrough we do look really well equipped across the park to be able to handle the fixture list and the demands of that, but also the challenge of any injuries that kind of come our way as well. We have had a couple of injuries in the first few weeks of the season, particularly defensively with Lenihan and Fry and Vandenberg out of action, but with George Edmondson coming in. Still got Anthony Dijksteel. He's stuck around at the club as well. I do think we're going to be in a great place to be able to handle the demands of the Championship. Could be famous last words. We'll see what happens as the season unfolds. But yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic for Middlesbrough fans at the moment. And I think it's been a solid but unspectacular start to the season for Michael Carrick's team. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's just been a bit of an offload about what the season has been so far for Middlesbrough. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on the start of the season and whether you're encouraged by everything that's been going on at the Riverside in the first few weeks. Drop into the comments below and let me know what you think. And if you are enjoying this content about Middlesbrough, please do hit subscribe as well, because there's going to be plenty more videos coming up over the coming days and weeks. So, yeah, thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch up with you next time.